My name's Tom, this is the Enthusiasm Project, and today I am comparing two cameras, the GoPro Hero 5 Black and the GoPro Hero 7 Black. The Hero 7 just came out and it's been getting some pretty crazy good reviews. I've been using the Hero 5 for a long time and I wanted to really know if it was worth upgrading. So everything that you see and hear in this video was filmed with one of those two cameras. And before we get started, all of the settings that I'm using to film with these cameras are down in the description below, and I'll even put them on screen right now. But basically, they're each filming in 2.7K at 24 frames per second. I set the shutter speed to auto, the ISO to a minimum of 100 and a maximum of 1600, and the only difference is that the Hero 7 Black has the new hyper smooth stabilization turned on, whereas the Hero 5 Black has the regular electronic stabilization because that's all that it has. The reason that I set them to 2.7K is because that gives you access to the linear field of view, which gets rid of the wide angle like fisheye GoPro look and makes it much easier to match GoPro footage to footage from other cameras like DSLRs or your phone or whatever you're filming with. So rather than focus on the super scientific technical performance of these specifications for these cameras, I wanted to compare them in a real world situation. Yesterday I rode in a 50-mile charity bike ride, so I decided to take both cameras with me and just kind of switch back and forth between them, test out the sound, test out the stabilization, test out the picture and the color, and see how they compared to one another in a situation like that where conditions are totally out of my control. So this is the Hero 5, which I've always really liked. It's been like one of my favorite cameras ever. But the only two complaints I've had about it are audio and the stability, because it tends to be a bit jittery and shaky. And this is the Hero 7, which I'm hoping will fix a bit of the audio issue. No idea if you can hear this. If you can, I hope it sounds better than the other one. And then also the stability issue. So hoping this is pretty stable. I'm riding on a smooth road, so it shouldn't be too insane, but it's real windy. I'm going 25 miles an hour, so if you can hear this, I'm impressed. Now, I did notice last night when I was playing around with this camera after I got it, that when I was using the hyper smooth stabilization, it had a lot of kind of shake and almost like the jello effect, kind of when you add a stabilizer in like Final Cut or Premiere or After Effects. And I'm wondering if that was just because of low light or if that's an issue and now in the bright light it'll look super smooth. You know, one time I was doing one of these rides and a bee flew into my shirt and it really sucked. And in terms of usability, both these cameras are pretty much the same. The menus on the 7 I noticed are a little bit different, but all the basic options are there. They're like the exact same form factor, the exact same everything. The 7 just looks a little cooler because it's dark black and has a big 7 on the side of it. And so after getting back today and comparing the footage and the audio between these two cameras, there definitely is a difference. There are certain cases, like when I'm riding with the camera mounted on my bike helmet, and with the Hero 7, it really looks like the camera is just floating through the world, which is super cool. Whereas on the Hero 5, it's a little bit more jittery. It looks like there's a camera mounted on a helmet, so I definitely prefer the 7 in those cases. Now, I've noticed when recording indoors, at home, that the Hero 7 has significantly better audio than the Hero 5. It just sounds richer and fuller, whereas the 5 sounds more like a GoPro's audio. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not as good as the 7. However, I did notice in this video, when I filmed myself talking on the bike, so this is the Hero 5, and this is the Hero 7. Both cameras kind of sounded about the same. I think there was a little more noise from the 5, where you could kind of hear me touching the camera, whereas the 7 sort of got rid of that. And those were conditions like going downhill in the wind, so I don't know what effect that had on it, but I was surprised at how well the Hero 5 stood up, because I really expected the Hero 7 to have much better audio at all times. I've never used the Hero 6, and seeing how close the 7 and the 5 really are to one another, I don't know that it'd be worth an upgrade from the 6. However, from the 5 or from the 4 or any of the other GoPros, like the older ones that didn't have any built-in screens or anything like that, it's definitely a no-brainer upgrade. And I really want to play more with the hyper smooth stabilization, because it seems pretty magical, but it also seems like, maybe especially in low light, it can give you some issues. So actually right now I'll show just some random test footage between the Hero 5 and the Hero 7 outdoors in bright daylight to see how the stabilization compares. Come on, Ben. Come on. Okay, fine, I'll film myself running. And so from that, you can see the Hero 7 is really good in terms of stabilization. That's where you notice a huge difference between the two cameras, and that alone, for some people, could be more than enough reason to upgrade. So if you're looking to upgrade and you have a Hero 5 or a Hero 6, it really becomes a matter of personal preference and what your needs exactly are. If you have an older GoPro, 2, 3, 4, it's absolutely worth upgrading to one of the newer models, the 5, 6, and the 7, because they're water resistant straight out of the package. You don't need that goofy plastic housing. They have a built-in LCD display. They also all take the same batteries. So I'm able to use my Hero 5 batteries on the Hero 7, which is great. I don't need to have another separate set of batteries. And they're the first generation of GoPro design that I felt was really, really usable. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any other questions or issues, just let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.